Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, Diligent, PwC, Center for Audit Quality, Spencer Stewart, the Conference Board, and Corporate Board Member, along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, the CEO of Diligence Boardroom Resources and the co-founder and editor-at-large of Corporate Board Member magazine. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. Today we're going to be talking about understanding the value of NextGen directors and what they bring to corporate boards. And joining me is Erin Lantz, who's a board member with TrueCar. She's also a member of the NextGen Board Leaders community, which we're happy to have her as.
Thank you.
So certainly this is a movement, that's occurring. There's no question that boards are giving much more consideration because they're interested in the people understanding the digital transformation or cyber. But it's an interesting dynamic because, as you know, you may go on a board that your fellow board members are 25, maybe even 30 years older than you are. And it creates an interesting dynamic. I know that anybody that has kids try and figure, about the difference between their children's views on things and theirs knows the challenge that might exist. But talk a little bit about the integrating into boards, not just a mentoring program or an onboarding program, but there's the informal stuff, the conversations that happen outside the boardroom, the conversations that occur between meetings. Talk about sort of the integration of a NextGener into today's corporate boards.
The aspect that's more challenging for NextGen board members has been kind of building those personal relationships outside of the boardroom because the NextGen folks have different social networks, are not part of the same membership organizations, they don't see each other in the same circles as regularly. And there's also just a difference in schedule, right? The typical board member is retired, children are out of the house, whereas we're working and have kids at home. And so just planning and scheduling time to connect, it's not so easy to schedule. So it's very easy to overcome, but it does take some intentional work to find time to make those connections in a way that works with both of those schedules, because it won't just happen as organically as it would with a traditional board member.
Yeah, and it is true that things are very different, and that. But you've always made a very strong effort to get past that, probably more than any other director that I've talked to that's a NextGener that says, okay, I'm not going to let that get in the way. I'm going to be a force in the sense that I'm going to contact them. I'm going to find out if I can break down these barriers. That's worked for you, though, hasn't it?
It's not just in board work, but most of my career, I've found that I'm the one that is, younger or less experienced or somehow new to the group. And in my experience, building those relationships with people, trusting relationship, has really helped me work through issues and really contribute more to the organization. Yeah. So it's what I've been used to, and I think it's been effective. And certainly the counterparts are receptive to it, but you're right, it does take a little extra work.
But that's why you were asked to serve on a board or two boards at age 30. Okay, so it's
a little older than that.
Well, the 30s.
The 30s, yes.
Okay, so it was. I think that was evident, and subsequently there's things that other people can learn from. I think how you sort of took the bull by the horns without stepping over the line, just being firm to do that. So with that as background, okay, so I'm going to take you a little bit out of a safe place here, because there's investors are putting so much emphasis on board composition. They want the right people in the boardroom. We look at PwC's research and we see how many, the super high percentage, this year it's 42% that think that a director should be replaced. So as a NextGen person, okay, not relating to your own board, but if you were going to put together a board, if you were going to try and get these diversity of skills, how would you go about that? What pattern of people do you think you'd go after to say, okay, this seems like the right group of people to be a board for this company?
When you're putting together a board, I think you want a combination of people with deep company expertise, industry expertise, functional expertise, and you want to really assemble this collection of cognitive diversity, people who think differently so that they can sort through problems together. I do think that there's a role for some sort of objective framework, so some sort of skills matrix, and have the board come together and say, let's map out what are kind of the skills and capabilities and experiences that we would like, and how does that compare to the current members that we have, and really identify those gaps and be very intentional about pulling together the right group. I think about it a lot as a team, assembling the right team. It's about college basketball season now. I'm a college basketball fan, and so I think you're much more likely to use the basketball analogy to go to the big dance if you have a bunch of guards and forwards and centers and a coach that all work well together than you are to have a team full of centers, right? And I think the same is true for board composition. Really looking for complementary team members who can work together will result in a more productive board.
Yeah. On a similar, taking you outside your normal, institutional investors have been pressing for disclosures and engagements. It's interesting now, certain investors say, well, we don't want to engage with everybody. So now companies are a little confused on whether they should be engaging or not. And disclosures, I have always thought that disclosures were what I'll call lawyered up. They really weren't giving the kind of insight that happened. So as a NextGener, I'm sure you understand why an investor wants to sort of meet and understand the board better. But at the same time, it seems like if they're successful in getting one disclosure, it's like people's job to keep dreaming up new things to sort of disclose. So as a NextGen, how do we get better communications between boards and investors that is more proactive and positive versus what we're experiencing today?
Yeah. As a NextGen with a day job as an executive at Zillow Group, I regularly am interacting with investors from the management side. And I think bring a similar philosophy to thinking about engaging with investors on the board side. Obviously very different topics and content, but provided there's clear policies around the topics and frequency with which board members are expected to engage with investors, I think a proactive approach to engaging investors is really healthy. In both contexts, I find that those conversations with investors help push my thinking about the issues at hand. And I think they also give you an opportunity to have more nuanced conversations with investors that better explain the board's thinking about a particular issue. We're ultimately, our interests should be aligned. We're out there to serve the shareholders. And so I think, just looking for opportunities to engage when it's the right topics and the right timing. I think having that mindset that engagement rather than avoidance is going to be more productive, I think will set us up for better outcomes.
Yeah. In the old days, everybody was worried about their directors being embarrassed, being put in a setting that didn't have enough control, to do things. But the reality is, these are the people that you're representing. I mean, it makes no sense to me why there isn't levels of communication more than what we have. And again, I give credit to some companies that are really reaching out, even though now they're confused when somebody says, well, we don't want to meet with you, okay? But the idea that they're mentally starting to say, oh yeah, this is our duty, we need to do that. I think there's been good progress made, and hopefully that will continue. So, well, Erin, I just want to thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule. Again, I know to be on a board, to raise a family, to have a successful career, that is a whole new set of challenges for NextGen board members that is different, as you said, from the rest of the board. But you're living proof that it can happen and you can do it well. So thanks for taking the time to join us here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that will help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms, brought to you with Knowledge Partners, Diligent, PwC, Center for Audit Quality, Spencer Stewart, the Conference Board, and corporate board member, along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.